So here, let's do this. I have a container that I already spun up out of DigitalOcean. Hopefully I can get logged into it. If not, we'll spin up another one. So we'll call this let's call this DigitalOcean Runner. All right. We'll make this public, no big deal. And let's create the project. Now, remember, like I said before, you have the option to enable auto DevOps or build a Kubernetes cluster. It's all on you. But we also have the option to um, set up DigitalOcean with a runner. So, why are we doing this? Because there may be a time where you just want to test something out. So DigitalOcean runner, GitLab runner action. There may be a time where you just want to test something out to see how something works, and you want to set up, a little testing environment. And so I like to use DigitalOcean. That you can get one for like $5, a little, excuse me, droplet, but we can walk through this. So let me get logged in on this, and then we'll go from there. Does anybody follow along and understand stuff so far? I just want to make sure I don't leave everyone out.
Well, for me, since this is my first meetup, I haven't done any of what you guys did last time, so I
Mhm.
guess some of it is new for me.
Okay, and we also have the last meetup recorded out on YouTube as well too. Um,
Okay, great.
I have D post that link as well, so you can take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Look at there, my digital lab runner. Come on. I know how much I owe. Creative. Jesus is slow. I hope it don't be like this all night. Okay, so here's my Docker container that I had last. Let me see if I can SSH to it. And thank you for your first meetup.
Oh, thanks.
This is provided I remember the password to this. And yes. All right, cool. Boom. All right, so I'm in. All right. I just want to make sure I remember the password. All right, so let me see. Let me do a history because I don't ever think I installed anything on here. So it's pretty brand new. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our GitLab, and what we're gonna do is, and actually this is what I do like about GitLab because anytime I make a commit to this repo, the auto DevOps automatically started running automatically, right? And that's what I like about it. So I don't have to push or kick anything off. I like that. But you can set it up to where it's a manual command too. So let's go back to files. Let's go in here to this README. I should be doing this all from command line, but I don't want to. I want to show you how to use GitLab and to your best of ability and what the interface gives you and what the command line gives you and so forth. All right, so here we'll say, what's today, the 27th? This is for Meetup, February 27th of 2019, uh, using GitLab Runner on DO. All right, it's going to commit and it's going to do its thing, but we're not going to worry about that for right now. All right, so now let's go back to our instructions on how to deploy. And let me close these tabs down. Sometimes it annoys people. I can keep up, but hey, I don't want to annoy nobody. All right, so close that. Here we are. All right, so we've done this step already. I created a droplet. I went through and I chose the latest Docker, the size, blah, blah, blah. Now it's time to do a GitLab runner install. So we did the Docker info. So this is picking up from where we left off the last time. Let's go here. Let's cut and paste. And I am going to clear my screen here. And I think I need to make this a little bigger for you. Is that better?
That's good.
Okay. All right, let's cut and paste that. All right, so it's going to curl and then it's going to run this script, that script.db.sh. All right, so it's updating this container and then it's doing this thing. All right, so while that's doing this thing, I'm going to minimize it. It's installing GitLab runner. We're installing the actual repo for the GitLab runner, and then here we're going to install GitLab runner, and then we're going to check our version, and then we need to register our GitLab runner back in GitLab. All right, so let's grab the next thing that we need to do, and this is what you would do if you were on and I'll show you on a Windows box because I actually installed a GitLab runner on a Windows box. I'll show you what that looks like as well too. All right, so my repository, you see my repository set up. And let's go here. Oops. Oh, I guess I didn't grab it. That's fine. App.get install GitLab runner. All right, so it's downloading that package. It's gonna ask me to say yes. This 11.8 is the version. Sorry. Sorry, every week. Hold on one second while I do something because this is going to continue. One second, people. 1 second. I got to turn off because it would go on forever. All right. So we got to get GitLab runner installed. And now let's check the version. The version should be 11.8. We saw it in there. Let's clear that so it's not at the bottom of our screen. Slow. All right, GitLab version 11.18. It tells you the branch and it's stable. All right. So now our next thing that we want to do we want to register our GitLab runner with our GitLab repo. Right now we don't have anything in our repo, but we can put something in our repo. All right. So now let's go over here to our repo. I think it's this guy. All right. And let's register our GitLab runner. Now, how do we do that? We have to come down here to settings. I'm just going to click on it there. We go, and then we go CI/CD pipeline. And then once we click on the CI/CD pipeline, you'll see that auto DevOps is there right there. But I haven't enabled that, not just yet. But here you see runners. All right, so now we have, it tells you how do you register your GitLab runners. Before, remember I said you have shared runners. We can absolutely use those and not even have to worry about this. But and this is something that I was doing today. Say I have a Docker container that I've deployed somewhere and it has a set of tools that I want to use. I can then deploy that particular container and then have my GitLab runner connect to that container and then do whatever other deployment that I wanted to do. So one of the things that I was working on was, and I could show you that here. Just give me 1 second here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Was I want to be able to, and this is me setting up my own runner, my own DevOps. So I have my own DevOps here. So, oh wait, here we go. Files, and then GitLab right here. So basically, here I pull CentOS, right? And in this particular, and inside of that, I install Ansible. Inside of that, I can install Terraform. I can install, say, some type of scanning tool or what have you. I can set my environment up to do, I can set my runner up to talk to that particular Docker container and then go deploy or go scan or go do whatever all from my container. And then when at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, destroy the instance that I got out there in that I spun up out in DigitalOcean, because I have a repository that where my original container is at. Does that make sense for everyone? Yeah. Okay. So let's go back over here to this runner that we need. We need to register our runner, and then what we'll probably put on our, we'll probably put let's put Ansible on there, and maybe even Terraform. We'll probably have to grab the binary of Terraform. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to settings, CI/CD. Come back. All right, and that's expand. And now we need to register our runner. So they've already told you what you had to do here, but I need to get this registration key. All right. So now you come back over to GitLab, and then you do GitLab dash runner register. All right, it's going to ask you for your information. In this case, it's still just HTTP gitlab.com. Oh, and I need to S, sorry. Oh no. No arrows, huh? All right. And then ask for that token. Here's that token. All right. So please enter the CI description for this runner. Uh, we could just say we'll take the default. The tags are what you can associate with inside back in GitLab to say run on this runner that has these tags, and I'll show you that in a minute. So we'll put Terraform on here, and it's got to be comma separated. And let's just do bash. All right, so succeeded. And this was giving me problems last night. Docker plus machine. Let's try, and Docker SSH and Docker. See? Yeah, see, this gave me problems last night. Let's just do Docker. Yeah. I don't know why it was giving me that problem. All right. So now the number one thing you want to find out is what Docker image do you want to have out there? So let's go over here to Docker and let's find out. I think HashiCorp passed one. So let's go to Docker Hub repo and find out what's the latest and greatest out here. All right, and let's look for Terraform. All right, so here's the HashiCorp one right here. So we can grab that. Let's grab that name right here. All right, let's go back. Now I'll pull this back up. All right. So what we have now is we got a HashiCorp Terraform. Let's see what's going on over here. Oh yeah, Docker PS -A. Nothing there. No Docker info. Nothing. I don't think anything else is happening going on. Okay. All right. So now we got that up and going. Let's go back to our GitLab. Now we're just gonna do something really simple in our files. All right, let's add a new file. All right, and we're just gonna do something really simple. Nothing too fancy, but hey, and I'll give you let's give you an example of what a file looks like and choose the type. So here's a caveat here. If you use GitLab CI YML, it would turn off auto DevOps. And let me show you what I'm talking about. If I go into my settings and I go into my CI CD, let's leave that page. If I go into my settings and I go in my CI CD and I turn this on and I say default, it's gonna that that code quality and all that you saw, it's gonna turn that on. So let's leave that turned off and let's actually build our own runner. And let me get you an example. Let's get an example offline. I have one, but it's probably just easy just to get here. GitLab CI YML file. All right. So they have an example here. Well, we don't need to use their example, but I just wanted to show you what your options are. So you can download. Slow down. All right, so you can download images, services, stages, do a before script and after script. Let me show you an example of one that I was working on in one of my other projects. Let's go to console and let's go here. All right, so you can see I was using the HashiCorp one, my environment variables for my AWS keys, my different stages, and so forth. So we can actually copy this, and we'll just have it set up as our guide for what we want to do. And remember, you can have runners set up to your Kubernetes cluster in DigitalOcean. We can build out another Kubernetes cluster out in DigitalOcean. We can build one out in AWS and build one out in Azure. And then we can deploy runners to each one of those to do a specific task. We may have our financial group that may run their stuff in Azure, out in I mean their Kubernetes cluster out in Azure. We may have another group that runs their stuff out in AWS. We may have another group that runs their stuff on prem inside of OpenShift, or they may run their stuff in VMware. So now we have one interface to do everything that we need to do and do a deployment. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so let's come over here. Let's add this file. Let's cut and paste. Let's give this file the name. Boom, there. All right. So I'm not gonna do the image because I don't need to install Docker on Docker. I don't need to do that. But we can do some things like what I have here. Um, echo hello to the container. And then we'll do some other stuff later. But let's just see this in action first. Let's do the stage. Let's do the testing because you gotta have a stage. And then we'll comment these out. And as soon as I hit commit, it's gonna do its thing. So let's do this testing. And in this script, we'll type env for environment variables. We don't need a plan actually. We can get rid of all of that. All right. And so let's commit. All right. So it says the job should contain at least one visible. Okay. Did I not do that? Oh, I didn't. Right here. That should be visible. But I don't think I have validate up there. But let me leave it as testing. Let's double check that. I double check my file. Let's look and see what do I have and why you're erroring out. Alright. Let's go back over to my projects. Let's go to my console. What are we missing? We have our stages. This is brutal. Files. CICIM. Alright, so we got our before, we have our stages, we have everything. Let's double check this one, make sure it works. I'm sure it does. Let's go back to files and do a change here on main.tf. Yep, yep, okay. That worked, that should work. And we got a host.txt file that you're reading from. Let's double check. What's our IP? I just want to throw it in there just to give it a change. IP-A in Linux gives you your IP address. For those who didn't know, it used to be IF config. They went away from that model. All right, so commit changes. All right, and as you can see, it's running. So yeah, that works. What are we missing out of our first one? And then you can see it's running on, it's pulling the Docker image and then starting up the runner. So we'll let that run. Let's go back to our file and see what are we missing out of our other repository so we can just get the Docker runner on that one. Files. And here. Which I don't think we're missing too much. But hey, you never know. We have our image. We did a before script. Here are our stages, validate plan. We just cut out all of this stuff and just did stages. Okay, let's go back over and check it out. DigitalOcean. I GitLab CI. Before script is stages lined up. Yes, testing plan, testing stage, testing environment should be okay. What do we have? Uh, well, no. So yes and no. So GitLab is used to with developers, operations people. When I say operations, infrastructure is one I referring to teams to do your deployments out to the cloud or whatever infrastructure or what have you. There's also like a safe agile for GitLab as well too. But when we start talking about infrastructure as code, compliance as code, automation as code, when we start talking about what tool to use, a lot of people go between GitLab, GitHub, Jenkins, um, some type of scanning tool, and then deploy off to a testing environment, a staging environment, or production, or all three. But it is, to me, a way to deploy to whatever I want to and have one stop shopping in terms of scanning a system, or like I can scan my container. I can check to make sure I'm meeting whatever code quality I should meet in terms of GitLab. Say I'm supposed to have my JUnit testing supposed to match some type of, I guess what's the word I'm looking for, some type of template for that, or I'm supposed to match up with our structure for creating templates for Terraform or VMware. I can do all of that in one GUI and deploy to Kubernetes and deploy to VMware and deploy to my instance that I have sitting at home, as long as I got a public IP and I can NAT it or whatever. So that's where that comes in at. And being able to have code reviews, a lot of people use this as an opportunity to do code reviews as well too. So it's a little bit of everything all in one. I hope that answered your question. All right, let's open up a new one. Oh, that was the IP. Okay. So does anybody else use GitLab? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't used GitLab before this. I mainly use GitHub.
Okay. Tamara, how do you use GitLab?
We're using it with Kubernetes actually to we're committing our code because I'm a developer mostly, but we're trying to kind of be more T-shaped and have more people learn how to use Kubernetes. So that's why I kind of signed up for this. Yeah, but we commit our code, mostly Java.
Okay. And so when which Kubernetes cluster are you in? Just regular Kubernetes or OpenShift or some other
I'm
module?
not sure actually. I probably have to look it up because for the organization as a whole, they already had like a whole CI/CD pipelines
Mhm.
set up, and our DevOps person's using sort of what was set up before.
Right. And so when walking into did you know GitLab before walking into it?
I took a quick class about it, like a quick introduction to it, but I'd only used it in that one intro. I'd used GitHub before and just SVN version control
Right.
back
Right.
a while back.
So what's your thoughts on GitLab versus GitHub? Which how do
It
you like?
seems like GitLab has more in it, like to be able to automate processes, at least for the CI/CD pipeline, or at least we weren't using any. If GitHub had it, we weren't using it
Right.
before.
Yeah, I don't think they're there. I don't think they have it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because we were just mostly when I was using GitHub, we were just committing our code, and we would use more like something like Jenkins and something else to kind of run some of not run some of the automated, like run some of the automated tests, but it wouldn't like deploy anything because we didn't have a full CI/CD pipeline set
Right.
up.
And that's the other thing too is when we start talking about this, we're talking about having the ability to have your create your CI/CD pipeline and your uh, um, continuous delivery, uh, which you're using Kubernetes and being able to do canary deployments. And for me, is having the ability to actually do um, canary deployments while also having a multi-cloud setup to try to understand how well if I deployed this Kubernetes cluster to AWS, well, how does this work, whatever. And Kubernetes is right now like the way that everybody is really going. Uh, just as a like they say they call it Kubernetes is the new Linux, but that's where everybody is going. So let's do an env here. I just want to see what was the difference in my file and this one. Invalid jobs. What are we talking about? One job needs to be visible. I did. I gave it a job. Hmm. All right, let's go look at my uh errors pipelines. Yeah, leave. Here we go. Invalid YAML. What's going on with my YAML? All right. See, it's giving me all my errors up front. Isaiah, you say if you're using a traditional cloud provider, do they provide functionality like GitLab? I don't know. I don't know. Anybody use Code Deploy? Does Code Deploy do this type of functionality? All you AWS folks out there? No? Anybody? Okay. One, two, three. Yep. And this is the one thing about YAML is lining up your stuff. I wonder if it's complaining about these uh blank files. Yep. Nope. Still echoing out, still failing on that. This is interesting. And I get the emails lighting up in my face that it failed. Jobs should contain at least one visible job. Let's go here. Yeah, we got that. Let's go back to here and let's validate our GitLab here. Let's copy that. Let's learn more. Oh, what was that validate at? Did I miss it? Oh, it's gone now. Awesome. Let's go here. Pipelines. Okay, here we go. Syntax is incorrect. Is it this? That little line there? You've been throwing me off this whole time? You all didn't catch this? see, echo value high, env branches on success, syntax is correct. I can't believe y'all didn't catch this. I'm disappointed in my team. Y'all didn't catch that one little line. Boy, YAML, boy. This one here, that's what's holding us up. All right. All I wanted to do was show the little thing running. You can see the little stages and the little testing. And it's all out on it download the Ruby image on there, but we can change that image. We've registered our runner, and I'll go back and double check my runner too, because it shouldn't be pulling in any image. It should be running this on my Docker container that's already out there. So we'll double check this. But for the meantime, you can see that this is running, doing its thing, and then it'll echo out that hello, and then some environment variables that are set up for the project. That's it. That's all I want to show. So let's go back down here to our settings, our repository. Nope. Our CI/CD. Come back. And in his CI/CD, what I want to show you is this is where you set up your environment variables, and also I've registered runners here as well too. So let's go look at this one. Our runner is registered for this project. And that was the one that was on that was the runner that we said that we wanted to use on our DigitalOcean box. So that runner is actually running. Let's go double check and see if we see this NYC301 in our repo, in our jobs. I wonder what. Oh, which one says? Yeah, they do, but you can utilize them from GitLab as well too. But I like GitLab so far. I can't complain. Let me scroll up here. That runner 11.18. Yeah, see, it doesn't show. It doesn't show my runner that I'm using. So let's find out. Are you using runners? Anybody else using runners on their projects? That's not what I meant to do. I meant to do that. All right. So let's look at GitLab runners. I hate when it does that. So inside of GitLab, there is a way for you to tell to configure your runner to run certain things, and it is the actual thing is this right here is bracket runners right here. So this is when you start getting into your advanced stuff. And I was looking at this, and I didn't have time to go over all of this stuff, but here in the runner section, you can pass security files, you can set up your environment, but here's what they have here. So when I created a runner on my box, it created a config.toml file. Let me go find that guy. And let's do it ls minus l. I think is here. Come on. Cloud. No, where did it put it at in that profile? I know one place I can find it for sure. And I can show you that. Let me show you this on this is the one I got set up on, out on Azure. I have a runner set up out on Azure for this. So that config file, C temp, is it in downloads? No, it's Windows 10, I think is what it is. Sorry. Well, that one's empty. So that's not it. It's a config.toml file. And I'll pull it up. Yeah, config. Yeah, it is. All right. So there's that token. Let's move. Let's expand this. Let's move this guy over. There we go. Get rid of you. All right. So we have that runner, and it tells you a GitLab and so forth and so on. And here's all the stuff that's associated with that runner. And the killer, this gets created after you install the runner. I need to find out where it got created at on the Linux box. Let's see. And that file you can change as well too. Oh, you're welcome, Jennifer. All right, so let's look and see where GitLab installs it at. GitLab runner on Linux. Config. I hate that part there. GitLab. Config. YAML. Oh no, what's it called? Toml. That's what it's called. Yeah, config toml. Yeah, on Linux. Where does it dump it at? Because it was in downloads for me on that one, but I'm not sure where it puts it at on Linux. And you could probably do a find on Linux, but I didn't want to. But anyway, what I want to show you was with these runners, all the advanced stuff that you could do, and then like you saw the auto scaling. Come on. All right. So you can see in one of their runners, they have a database set up. The clients and the data that can use, so you can really get advanced with it. Let's go back, and then look at auto scaling on your GitLab runners. For those of you that are using AWS. All right, so here is where they start talking about where you can do your concurrent and then your check level, and then what Docker containers that you can spin up and spin down, especially if you're doing something that's data intensive as well too. You can go there. All right, let's get back to our GitLab runner. All right, and I'll send you this as well too in case anybody wants to play with building out their runners to do specific jobs. Oh, gosh, I missed that. Okay. All right. So Kubernetes. Let's go over this cluster that I have. And then it already has a runner out there on it. But let's go here. That one. And then let's go to that meetup that I had. I think it's this one that's using that one out there on what you call it. So if we go to my cloud account, and I'm just gonna log in from their terminal. I don't have nothing deployed out there right now, but we can deploy something. All right, let's go here, and then we're gonna hop on the actual cluster itself. So we can connect here. We can run in their shell cloud. And I've showed you this before, but what's really cool about this as well too, we can also grab some containers and do some deployments as well. So is anybody using Kubernetes in production and building it out?
I wish.
Chris, how about you?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Let's see.
We actually are working on a greenfield project that is using Kubernetes, but I think the person that's designing out the cluster don't know what they're doing.
Okay. All right. So let's do a cube, cuddle, get pods. And I'm getting all the pods and all the namespaces. And I hope you should be able to see this. All right, let's pipe that over to less. So continue to scroll off the screen there. All right, so you can see from me doing the deployment from a Google Cloud perspective, this was installed. So the cert manager for TLS, the ingress for opening up your pods to the internet, Prometheus for your log, well, I say monitoring your services, and Tiller, I think that works with Helm charts. Fluent D for working with your networking piece of that. Heapster, I forget what Heapster was off the top of my head. I forget what Heapster was.
I think Heapster is like a monitoring solution. I think.
I think I gotta look it up again. I forget. And then your cube system. Oh, this is killing me. Go away. I don't even know how to use cube. Thank you. Your cube system.
Yeah, Heapster is it is a monitoring solution.
Right. And then here's your cube system, and then your minimum Rails app that got deployed. You see, it shows you that it got deployed as well to this cluster when we ran it earlier. And I want to also show you some other stuff as well too. All right, let's clear that. Let's get all namespaces, or you can just do NS for short. Oops, I got an extra T in there. Let's get namespace. All right, so here's all the namespaces. Default GitLab managed apps. You see, that's that runner that got installed onto the cluster. Cube, public and cube system. Again, the minimum Rails app actually makes a namespace for itself and then deploys onto the cluster. So we can do get pods in the namespace equal to oops, what I miss? Oh, namespace. I got a dash. All right, so that's all the pods that's running in the namespace for this particular cloud. And you see, you can see that we was playing around with this, and so that's why you see this David test, this staging. We were trying to get that deployment, that auto pipeline to work. All right. So now the next one is let's deploy onto this cluster. So we could do a deployment. All right. So it's a cube CTL. Oh, do I have anything on it? Let me double check before I start doing some stuff. Let's look at staging YAML. All right. Has everybody seen a Kubernetes a YAML file and understand what each one of these files means? Do you want to walk through one? If you don't want to walk through one, I won't. I won't waste everyone's time. Okay, so let me walk through it. All right, so this API version, right? These are endpoints for Kubernetes, and you can get access to your cluster endpoints, but in order to do that, you have to authenticate in order to do that. But if you want to know what's in here, you can authenticate to it, and you can also go look this up. So let's go look this up. That works. Okay, I guess I didn't, but that's okay. We can now just go back here. It is, I don't know what happened there. Let's delete that. Yeah. Extensions v1, beta 1. V1. There we go. Come on, you can do it. All right. So you can see here they have a list of what gets defined in V1 beta 1. You see that here? They got a deployment, list, deployment rollback, scale, the daemon sets, the ingress, and so forth. So these are the things that are listed. I want to make sure I'm in the right version. Yeah, 1.13 is the latest and greatest. So I wanted to make sure we was in the right version. And then within the deployment set, we can come down here and it tells you more about what it is, the kind, and we saw that in there, the API version, some metadata, and so forth. So let's go back over here. So in Kubernetes, you can define what kind of I don't want to say what kind of deployment is. You can define what you want to push out to your cluster. So this kind could be a job, it could be a pod, it could be a deployment, it could be a daemon set. What else? A batch. You can do a cron job, and know I'm missing something. I know I'm missing something in terms of kind. Oh, and a replica set, which is actually being under replica set has been replaced by deployment. And so what does it mean to do a deployment? Well, when I went out and you look down here in the spec, you see it's only got one replica. But really with a deployment, you usually are doing like three for deployment, three pods that you're deploying out to your cluster. So we jump down here to metadata, and we see our namespaces. But when we look here, we got some annotations that got created in here, and we'll talk about annotations in a minute. But I want to walk through everything. We have some labels, and it just sounds like it what it is. I'm labeling what happens and what gets deployed. I'm labeling what gets deployed, and let me show you how they do labels because that's important on your test. Labels, Kubernetes. So this helps with filtering. Labels and selectors. So in here, you saw that there was a label there, but here's what it looks like. You have a label environment equal to production. You have a label tier not front end. And in here, let me see, did they put a label down in here? No, not on that one. They didn't. Okay. So here's what they did. They was like, okay, I want to filter on a pod, get pods in this environment, and then they're filtering on it, and that's really what you're using those labels for. So in case point, I may have 40 pods deployed, but I don't want all the pods. I just want pods in this environment. That namespace I showed you there earlier. The name of this deployment is staging. Whoopsie, come back. Okay. The name of the deployment is staging. And then they got a spec for it. Let's see, I'm trying to slow it down on the up. Okay, they got a spec for it. We talked about the replicas, the revision history. We got it set for 10. So anytime I want to redeploy or whatnot, I only have 10. I got a limit of 10. We talked about that. No, here's where we start talking about what container gets deployed. The container that got deployed, you can see they have the username and password right in there. Uh, the name of it, the name of this secret reference. Here is where they start talking about they were talking about passing secrets with this particular one in for this particular container, but they also give you the image of what they want you to deploy. The image pull policy, if not present, it goes back and says, well, failure threshold of 3, then pop out. They open up a HTTP port on port 5000. You may be able to hit this from 5000. I haven't tested it. I need to look and see if that port 5000 is open on my well, if it's been exposed, it need to be exposed. Um, then we got a termination message. So what happens with this? We gave it a path, and then what happened when we terminated this DNS policy? I have not played with DNS policy. I need to look that up. Restart policy: always restart, always stay up. And this is where we get into self healing. Um, you come back. And then down here, you see this stuff is status, right? So I can do I can get back this deployment and store it in a YAML file, and that's probably what I ended up doing. Is why you see this. But in order to redeploy this, I need to get rid of everything from status on down, and then I can use this particular file and redeploy to the cluster, and maybe even change the namespace of where I deployed to, and so I can redeploy that. So there's something that I skipped up here, and I said I want to go over that again with you, and that was annotations. go. All right. So you can see here they're talking about annotations. You can use either labels or annotations to match metadata to Kubernetes objects. Again, similar to labels. Um, Let me see. Do they have? Let's look up an annotation example. Well, we saw one, but I want to show you a good one and why you should use it. And it's on the test. Let's see if they have a good one here. All right, let's look at this one. Let's look at their annotations. All right, custom annotations, rate limiting. All right, let's look at what they have down here. All right, they got their API version. This is a config map. That was one of the ones I missed. The namespace. This is data for this ingress template. Let's look at annotations. Here we go, right here. All right, they got information about it where you want to find out if Nginx is on, the rate limit for it, and the burst. So this is an ingress controller that they're actually deploying here. And then here's the config map for that information for that ingress controller. And that's what annotations do. Any questions? No? Yes? All right, cool. So Tamara, when you deploy, are you writing your YAML files? Are you writing deployments, pods, so forth and so on? Reggie?
I'll probably have to look because since I'm not writing them, I only know that our DevOps person's doing it.
This is a good time for you to learn how to write them, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's walk through a basic one then. All right, let me pull this up. Ta-da. All right, so here, I'm going to allow you all to walk me through this. What the API version is apps v1, all right, and then I'm doing a deployment, and notice again, I'm telling it to give me 3 replicas. You see the namespace, I'm doing it. What's so special about namespaces? Namespaces allow you to, I don't want to say segregate, let's say compartmentalize your work, not necessarily your workloads, but your different environments. So you may have a finance environment that needs to have their own space. You may have a teachers assistants that need their own space or whatnot. So you can kind of leave things segmented out when you do it. And then you can see on here, I also have some labels in here. And then I'm telling it what container I want to deploy and then the ports that I want that container to be deployed on. So let's go back to my Kubernetes cluster because there's something that I did not do on my cluster. Let's do cube ctl get nodes. All right. One thing we didn't discuss was I'm getting the nodes that are available for my workloads, but by default, with the baseline install, Kubernetes is set up in a daemon set. So what is the daemon set? The daemon set says, hey, when I deploy my nodes to the cluster, I want you to distribute my nodes um I want you to distribute my pods across the cluster. So it's going to distribute across all 3 nodes and not just go get deployed on one node and then the other ones are sitting there waiting. Now, how does that work? Well, let's talk about that too. Anybody familiar with the scheduler from Kubernetes? Let's look at a diagram. And I think this is something that everyone should at least know. That's not one. Yeah, this one. I think this was it. About to find out. So the scheduler determines where those pods get deployed to. That's not what I want. I need an image. I think this is the one I wanted. I think this is the most current one. This one. Yeah. And running on every node in this cluster is a cube cuddle control, cube CTL, and cube proxy. That's all running on this node. And you remember when I showed you that flannel? Flannel is that networking piece. Now, let's keep in mind there's different networking pieces that you can add to Kubernetes. You can add flannel. You could do calico, and I think it's called router something. But there's a whole list of them on their website. However, each networking piece that you add does something different. And I'm gonna come back to this, but I want to show you that.
Quick question: do you see people in the industry lean towards a specific networking piece? Because I mean,
Yeah,
I know I'm learning with flannel, but I don't know
yeah,
what else everybody else is.
calico, because flannel doesn't allow you to do network policies. And so when you got role based access and you want to do network policies and so forth, Calico doesn't do that. I mean, Flannel doesn't do that. Let's go here. All right. Let me see. And I went through and was trying to find out. Oh, they don't have that list. They don't have that list on this one. I was trying to find out, like, okay, so yeah, I learned on Flannel, but what should I be using? And the reason why I say Calico, because it's in all of the projects for like OpenShift. It's in the projects for AWS and it's in the projects for Google Cloud. So I'm like, well, they must have it unlocked then. Right. So yeah, the network policy is the important piece here. So you can do create a namespace, and then in that namespace you can come in and give uh, see that isolation. I don't think you can do that in Flannel, and then set up the policy for that. I know you can't do network policy. I don't know if you can do isolation in Flannel or not. I have to dig into Flannel. But Calico is what I see everybody using. And that's what I'm getting ready to use when I deploy Kubernetes in my for my group. All right. So let's go back to this image. So that this scheduler says, okay, well, what's available and where should I deploy to? But remember, by default, you have a daemon set that says, hey, evenly distribute across these particular pods. However, there is a taint set up on the master that won't allow you to, by default, to install on the master. You have to go in and untaint the master in order for you to deploy it onto the master. And so that API, those V1 beta apps deployment, all those that comes from this API, again, the endpoint, and the etcd is the cluster. And then we got our cloud manager and a cube controller manager. Let's go look at what each one of those do. So cube controller manager. All right. So here's the rundown of the Kube controller manager. Okay, embeds core control loops shipped in Kubernetes. Okay. And applications of robotics, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So in applications of robotics and automation, a control loop is a non-terminating loop that regulates the state of the system. So we're trying to find out what's going on with the system. So we're watching the system. That's what we're doing there. All right. And the other one was cloud controller manager. Does that control the state of the cloud? Is it that simple? Let's go here. Embeds cloud specific control loops, blah, 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 to control the cloud. Okay, so I got something that watches my state, and then I got something watching the state of the cloud. All right, so now let's go back to this. All right, so we've gone over pretty much all those things. Don't worry about minions. That's what it used to be called. They're not called minions anymore. Oh, that's not what I want. I want this guy. All right. So there's our three nodes. So let's get more information about them. Um, I mean, less that. So what I just did was I found out more information about it, and I also, in this way, I can find out what's being deployed, what machines are deployed to this particular node. So you can see we had a kernel deadlock on the 27th. Interesting. Read only file system false. Okay, no, it was false. All right. False, 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 false. All right. Internal IP. All right. So memory requests. We had, remember these are our namespaces as well. Um, CPUs. Oh, and I think these are the, let me see, limits. Namespace, the name, the CPU, the CPU requests CPUs, and I'm assuming one of these goes under there. I forget which one goes under what, but nevertheless, you got more information about it. So let's look at, and we'll deploy a pod here. Nothing in the default namespace. There's namespaces. Yeah. Oh, did I do that wrong? It's supposed to be all namespaces. I do it every time. Dash namespaces. All right, so let's look at cube system namespace, and then let's actually look at cube proxy in the cube system namespace. Get node that was in cube system. Was that not it? Yeah. Let's do a describe then. You know, just describe. Let's get rid of nodes. But you do need it. Maybe it says. Did I do it in the namespace? Yeah. Let's look and see. The server doesn't have a resource type. It did. Well, it did earlier. And I said node, and you didn't like it. Error from server. Server not found. Is it not up anymore? Let's clear that. Let's get describe our nodes again. Let's get all the pods and the namespaces. Let's go for this one. Shorter so it doesn't nod. I know that one gotta be up. Let's describe this node. And then dash namespace of cube system. Okay, it doesn't look that. You know what? It may, well, no, I said pod, not nodes. It's a pod. My bad. I was like, I know I'm not crazy. All right, so I described the pod and what's going on with it. And this gives you all the information of what's going on with that pod. You can also use Docker commands to go log into the pod and go from there. And it also is letting you know some labels. The IP that it's on this is actually controlled by a replica set. We could probably get the deployment. We could probably get the actual file, recreate the actual file for that one. The image that it used. We also get the ports that are open on that particular one. We can see that it's running. We got a healthness check there. Remember, it's reporting to Prometheus. The container ID, and then here's some arguments that were passed to it. As you can see, the DNS is on 53. When it started, there's Prometheus. So these are the containers within that pod as well too. Remember we were talking about tolerations and node selector. We didn't pick a node, but it's distributed across multiple nodes. And then the different namespaces. So you can get a lot of information about a pod or deployment. So what you see here is us doing a deployment. And then let's change this namespace to default. And let's cut and paste this. And then let's put this into nginx.yaml. I think I got everything. We're about to find out. So we can do cube ctl create -f nginx deployment. So it created an nginx deployment, and remember, if you did cube ctl get ns, we get the namespaces, and we have default namespace, which is where I deployed it at. So that allows me to do cube ctl get deployments. So we see nginx is a deployment that was 24 seconds ago. And you can see is 3 because we had a replica of 3. We can destroy one. Once we destroy one, it's going to always come back up because deployment is based on a replica set. All right, so now let's do a cube CTL describe deployment, and the deployment was Nginx. I think it's Nginx deployment. Okay, no, it's Nginx. It might be in the file. All right, so the names um, is there. I changed this to default. Just then we can go back and change it to something else. Here's some annotations. Remember that selector, I can do a -L and do app equal to Nginx, and just only get the deployments with for that are labeled Nginx app equal to Nginx, not just Nginx app equal to Nginx, and in that namespace. What we're exposed on. And remember, anytime we do deployments or whatnot, we always get we can always remember it's always a replica set. You delete, it's going to automatically come back. And then the scaling replica set. So that is, we deploy it to our Kubernetes cluster on all 3 nodes. If we want to kill that deployment, we do cube delete deployment, and it's Nginx. It may be Nginx deployment. Yeah. And then we can go back and get deployments again. And we have nothing, remember, in the default namespace. So that's how you deploy to your Kubernetes cluster. With all that being said, we can take that same YAML file and throw it into our repo for this particular app and deploy to our Kubernetes cluster from there. The only thing that you would have to do is you would have to give permission to the Docker container that you're using to deploy to that Kubernetes cluster, or you can use the runner in order to install with that Kubernetes cluster. Does that make sense for everyone? Was this informative for everyone? I'm gonna stop recording too.